All right, we're back. I've got Al Claiborne, trainer to the stars, Gwen Lau Johnson, track and field chair, USA Track and Field, Georgia. So we are back, and we can talk all day about nutrition, and all day we're going to talk about nutrition in this world of anabolic steroid use, because I just found out on top of Tyson Gay, Asafa Powell was also had a positive test today. And on top of Asafa Powell, we had a female athlete from Jamaica. So we've got two Jamaican athletes that have tested positive for anabolic steroids, and which is a sad state for our sport, because we thought we did such a great job cleaning it up. And there's Sharon Simpson, who's also tested positive for anabolic steroids. So Al, back to you. Looks like there's three aspects of training that as track athletes we're really, really concerned about. You talked about cherries being a superfood, and in between segments we were talking with Gwen. Gwen had a few questions in regard to frozen cherries, things of that nature, since cherries are a seasonal food and a lot of our berries are seasonal. So can you talk a little bit more about this superfood cherries?
Well, like I was telling Gwen, cherries were just at the top of my list. There's a lot of other great sources of antioxidants that you can get from your fruit. Berries of all sorts pack a good source of antioxidants. Your strawberries, your blueberries, your blackberries, and your raspberries, they're all great sources of antioxidants. So I've always been able to find some sort of berry that's in season, regardless of where we are in our changes. But and you can pick them up flash frozen. I mean, you can get them at any grocery store.
What about organic? We haven't had that topic, but if we can touch on it lightly, the difference between the organic and what I normally get.
Okay, organic is, it's the use without pesticides and herbicides. That's basically what organic is when it comes to your fruit and vegetables. Berries, on the other hand, I'm from Oregon, so we never use herbicides or anything on stuff that we could just walk out in the field and pick, because it grew wild, and most of your berries do grow wild. It's just that they take them and they put them in the field, and they can have more control over cultivating them. But most of your berries are grown wild. But if you're making them into a juice, the more berries you use to juice means that the higher the particles of pesticides and herbicides go up. So you don't want to make it a habit of juicing something that's not of the organic type, simply because of its levels of carcinogens that you could end up having in your glass of juice each day, because it's something that adds up quite quickly.
So it's a cumulative effect.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you talked about bananas during in a way to mitigate the loss of potassium. What other food? Let's say I'm not into bananas. What else can I do? Because bananas is rich in fiber, also, correct?
Nope, not rich in fiber. They're very high glycemic. They're mostly carbohydrate. There's very little fiber in a banana. You're going to get most of your fiber from apples and fruits with a heavy husk like an apple. And apples are a great source of that as well, especially your red apples.
So the red apples, and I know apples sometimes can be evasive to the digestive process. What other superfoods can I use to help with the high concentration of potassium to kind of help mitigate the high temperatures. Since we're here in a high humid, high temperature area, I know that's probably important, as well as iron-rich foods in order to, especially for our female athletes who are going through the menstrual cycle, in order to help boost the iron levels and keep them at a working level.
Okay. Well, kiwi is a great source of potassium. It's another great source, a mineral source that you find in fruit, and a lot of your passion fruits have good sources of potassium. Let's see, kiwi, papaya. Papaya is another great one, and tomatoes. Even though people don't look at them as a fruit, they are, but they're a great source of potassium.
So literally, if all else fails, if I don't have a banana, I can use a tomato to kind of help mitigate that. As during a track practice, give an athlete a tomato or a slice of a tomato.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then in the post, and I know that milk can, with our lactose intolerant friends.
Right.
What other alternatives do we have there for the milk, and if we can't digest milk?
Well, a lot of companies are trying to, emulate or trying to put products that are on the market that give you the same look, taste, texture as the real thing, and they back it up with making it a fortified, nutrient. They'll add potassium, magnesium, and phosphorus, and all the other things that may be missing out of that they may be missing if they're just going straight with a vegetable source or a grain source, But almond milk, they have fortified versions of almond milk that would have, the same protein, the same fortification that you would have in regular milk, rice milk, on the other hand, would have a little bit more carbohydrates than some of your other brands of some of the other products that are on the market to emulate milk. Now, your soy milk is probably pretty close to the regular milk, except for high concentrations of soy can actually leach calcium out of your body a little bit. I mean, it can impact that. So I would suggest more so than anything is to get your sources from a variety of different foods instead of looking for maybe one or two superfoods, but eating all of them in as much as a superfood group as you can, to get a variety of different nutrients that will work better synergistically with each other.
Okay, so eating a variety. So the variety would be, like, for instance, Yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo, I see Yoo-hoo as not as evasive lactose intolerant type of drink. Is that, I don't know how familiar you're with Yoo-hoo, but it's a chocolate drink, or almost like a milk type drink. Have you had any experience with Yoo-hoo, especially
honestly,
chocolate?
I saw it. I saw it, but I haven't read anything on it, and they don't talk about it much on some of the sources of nutrition that I use for information. I don't know much about the product.
Okay.
But they have a lot of other. They have a huge variety of different. I want to say sports drinks, but I would call them recovery tools for athletes, because there's not everybody's into a sport, but people are looking to still sharpen their bodies, keep their fitness up, So there's a lot of different sources out there. I mean, Special K's got a protein smoothie out. Ensure, everybody's got those drinks that are available that are non-dairy that you could get that are fortified with nutrients. You just want to make sure that your sugar's low. I wouldn't drink anything that had more than 12 grams of sugar in a serving. But I'm 230 pounds, and I lift weights every day, so it's very different for a small statured person who's going to have to burn those calories. It's different. But I'm not talking about weight loss here. I'm strictly kind of trying to keep on the track vibe. You have to keep me on track. Sometimes I'll get off track and start going into, the other experiences I had around nutrition. So
now, what about Ensure? You kind of touched it in Pedialyte and things of that nature. I've seen athletes use that as a post-recovery. Can you get a little bit more specific about Ensure, Pedialyte? I think Sam's has their own version. I think Walmart has their own version of it. Is that something that I can use for a post-recovery drink with my athletes or myself?
I would have to say yes, because they are trying to compete, and they are definitely trying to keep some of the bad nutrients out of their out of their product for the most part. But then they have a few out there that are questionable. But I would look at some of your bodybuilding formulations, like your EAS. They're looking specifically to weightlifters, people who do a lot of work on their bodies and are constantly breaking them down. So you really, if you want to have the edge, have a great product out there, is no one more discerning than an athlete looking at what they're putting in their body, especially someone who's going to look to have the edge, every 8 to 12 weeks of training to get on stage and present themselves as being the fittest and the strongest. So, and that equates right down the list of every athlete. At the base, it's hard training. It's a lot of breakdown. There's a lot of things that need to benefit from nutrition. So some of your bodybuilding products are very, very good for all athletes, especially. And I'm an advocate of EAS. I think EAS is one of the best, post-recovery protein drinks on the market, other than some of your regular, like you said, Kroger's got their brand, and some of the regular store products. I'm not really versed on them, and I overlook them a lot of times. But every once in a while, you come up on a gem of a product that no one really knows about because they're expecting it not to be there.
Now, okay, so going back to, I would probably say I would be comfortable with prescribing that to an adult or a master's athlete who can range from 0 to 100 years old. But our biggest audience here is our parents. There may not be necessarily as sophisticated as a coach may be or a athlete may be. And I know a lot of the background of bodybuilders, when I want to know which supplements work with any athlete, I'm going to the bodybuilder. I'm going to go directly to one because they know it better than anybody else. All right, I'm just going to be honest with you. Bodybuilders are numero uno, top shelf. But how can I simplify it enough when I've got that 8-year-old who has a similar protein requirement? They have the similar carbohydrate environment, but they're in developing bodies. What is it that I can do, cookie cutter as it may be, to say, hey, parent A, I need you to go buy what at the grocery store that's going to help support the long-term training of your athlete?
Okay, first of all, with kids, you want to stay away from the stimulants. You want to stay away from the pre-workout drinks. The area you want to stay in is post. meaning that the protein and those recovery type of beverages. Stimulants are to me just because a kid is such a range of different sizes, and some of these ingredients are pharmaceutical grade, so you have to be very careful on the boost of energy type drinks. I would go with a basic Pedialyte for maintaining their electrolytes from the sweating and whatnot, and then I would just go with a scaled down version of your post protein drink. Like if I had to do an EAS for my child, I would just look at the protein requirements that my kid has, meaning looking at, well, you're not doing a body composition on a child. You're just kind of going with a basic BMI because it's not going to be that much. The range is not going to be that great as far as how much muscle mass a child would have versus, from athlete to athlete. But when you get up, in the teens and you get up into upper age, then you really want to pay close attention to body mass and, body composition. But if you're looking at just body mass, go with a basic BMI on a child and just keep the protein requirements, along with that suggestion. So if it says, you need 26 grams of protein per day, just drop down that beverage drink and ratios that would support that. And it's just basic math. So you'd go with maybe a third of what an adult would use to give them after a workout.
Okay. Well,
Ian?
Yes.
Hey, Ian.
Yes, Gwen.
I don't want to turn into a Pedialyte advertisement here, but just a quick story about that. Growing up in the West Coast, we weren't used to the humidity. And it seemed like every national competition or trials was always in an area where there was great humidity. And our medical staff...
I think your dog wants some Pedialyte.
Yeah. So he wants to get on the call. He wants to know why I was getting on the phone so long. Pedialyte was given to us to fight off the humidity, especially coming from a different coastal area with the humidity being, with the climate being different. And when he first explained that to me, I thought he was crazy. Like, how would that benefit me? But it really made a huge difference. And especially, I think about those kids being out, experiencing JOs, regionals this year, and they're out there all weekend. They're out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're out in those very heated, humid climates. And that hydration is a huge factor. How to stay hydrated through the rounds is another thing, with them having so many different, some of them doing multiple events, some of them doing at different times where they may run in the morning, they might not run again in the evening. So I'm an advocate for the Pedialyte. That really is a great form of hydration.
Hey, and that's a great, good kind of affirmation on using that type of product. But now let me tell you this, or ask you this, Al. Is there in our nutrition process, we always want to eat the best foods and so forth and so on. But are there any antagonist and protagonist relationships in nutrition? Is there something that we can ingest that is counterproductive to something that we may ingest in hope that we may be able to find some type of nutritional balance?
Well,
Hey, I dropped off.
Go ahead, Al.
Yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, you can. Nutrition is a balancing act. It's a balancing act, and it's meant to be It's meant for the synergistic sophistication of our bodies. Our bodies operate on a synergistic fashion. One thing supports the other. And that's how our organs work. Our organs work on a synergy. And nutrients need other nutrients in order for them to work. I was having a discussion the other day about amino acids. We were talking about, what nutrients cancel out other nutrients, what, if you ate this, would that cancel out that? Our bodies are very sophisticated, but the reason why nutritionists talk about variety of foods is because as with variety, you have optimum synergy. So if you are eating, say for instance, you have people who eat what they like. They have a very kind of stringent eating palate. They'll eat the same thing all the time, and they very rarely deviate from that. But when it comes down to the athleticism, it's off and on. You see them one week, they're performing well, and next week they're flat. Well, when I experience that with my athletes, the first thing I look at on any of my athletes, I look at their nutrition. I have them journal. I have them not only journal what they ate, but how they felt. How do you feel when after you ate this, hour, 2, 3 hours later? Because as a nutritionist, you can kind of go back and you can backtrack. You can find food allergies. You can find things that not quite agreeing with them. And for the most part, I'm always finding a deficit in some nutrition, some nutrient. And as soon as I make that correction, man, I'm getting stabilized blood sugar, performance out of them. Their energy is stabilized. They're consistent with their lifts, or they're consistent with their training intensity. I've discovered that nutrition, for the most part, is at the root of all performance. If you are not getting something consistent from your athlete, 9 times out of 10, backtrack what they've eaten. You want to tell your audience to start journaling their training, because just like anything else, if you journal your training, you journal your diet, you write down the times you ate, you write down what you ate, and you can find where either food is agreeing or not agreeing with you, just by adding in and taking out certain things and kind of tweaking it. Once you tweak it, you don't have to tweak it again. You go about your training, and you can really push it. But it's not one thing to tell you that, okay, you're going to eat this and just eat this every day, and it's going to be the silver lining. It's not. Things work in a synergistic fashion. You cancel one thing out, and then all of a sudden it's like a domino theory. It just kind of goes downhill, and then next thing you know, they don't want to perform, they don't want to train, they don't want to, it starts hitting them in their training first, then it starts hitting them mentally, emotionally, and before you know it, they're asking the question whether they really want to do this or not. And that's worst case scenarios. But as coaches, we are to identify these things long before they happen by looking at the habits and behaviors around our athletes, constantly monitoring them, and constantly taking evaluation of what they're doing to support their training. And that's what we want to do ultimately, and just make sure that those superfoods that we suggested are in their training table somewhere, and that we want to make sure that they have ample amounts of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and hydration, and sleep, and good training.
Okay. Now, I know I've spoken with Gwen about this in the past. Sleep, regeneration, because it's all good that we give him this great stimulus. It's all good that we give him this great nutrition. But how does sleep play part of this whole synergistic relationship between training and performance?
Sleep is huge. Sleep is huge. Are you talking to Glenn, or are you?
No, I'm asking you. You're the expert today. We've got you
Okay,
inside
all right.
the track and field oval, so you're the expert.
All right. Okay. Well, sleep is I can't stress the importance of sleep enough. Sleep it allows your body to not only make recovery possible for, the breakdown of muscles, and it doesn't just facilitate the proper synergy of your digestion. It allows you to think more clearly. It allows you to focus and concentrate. It allows you to visualize. I mean, have you ever been so tired, dude, from lack of sleep that you can't even think clear? And without sleep, you get frustrated and you can't concentrate, and you don't really want to push your training. For athletes, every day they train, especially if they're trying to get to a podium somewhere. Now, if they're just trying to, they're weekend warriors, they're going to go out and do a little competition in a week. That's different. That's, dude, you stayed up late, party too hard, whatever. That's different. And someone who's trying to get to the podium. Now, if they're trying to get to the podium, the essential element of sleep is tantamount to the training. So you're only as good as your nutrition. You're only as good as your sleep. Meaning that sleep is right up there with your nutrition. It's a part of your training. It's as important as walking into that gym and picking those weights up and doing those plyos and running those sprints is just as important, because it is the thing that allows the brain to get involved. So when the brain gets involved, it manufactures everything that your athlete has to envision about his performance or her performance. It's that essential. So we know that vision is an important aspect of anything that you want to succeed at. So if I have an athlete who's great at getting to, and they got poor nutrition and sleeping habits, I know that there's only so long that they're going to be able to do that, and then it's going to be me pulling them with a truck in tow, trying to get them to train. But if I know I got an athlete that's getting to bed at night, chances are they're going to be eating right, because now they see and they can envision the reason why they're doing things. But if you're tired, man, you're not going to feel like eating. You're not going to feel like training. You're going to just give enough just to get through it. You're going to, eat whenever whenever you can. But for the most part, you're living trying to get through. And you can't get to anybody's podium coming half-mast when it's like cutting off your leg and trying to run a race, man. You can't do it.
Now, let me ask you this, Al. Is there any importance of when you get that qualitative sleep? For instance, man is really designed to work sun up to sun down, but lights have pushed us now to be able to work 24 hours.
Right.
Is there a better time? When is the optimal time to shut it down for the evening? I know midnight is probably not it, but when would it be the most optimal time? And how many hours do we need?
Okay, I'm gonna get into the very nature of things. I'm going to talk to nature, and this is where I'm going to lose some people, because it's it's a little holistic for a lot, but it is the truth. Just like any other creature that goes to or starts to go to sleep when the sun goes down. I mean, chickens go into roost. Most daylight creatures go, find a place to start bedding down as soon as dusk comes, right? So what we are not meant to be up at night. People are sleeping at night, supposedly, Now, there's a lot of industries that say, "Oh, I get more creative when it's when I work at night and I sleep during the day." You can tell that's going to be a short-lived situation. I always stress the importance of getting your body on some kind of balancing act, because if you don't, somewhere you're paying for it. With sleep, your body builds up different hormones, just like the natural rhythms of the sea. The ocean rises and falls, different rotations of the earth. Everything happens in a synergistic fashion. Well, our bodies are no different. We're definitely connected to this. So when our bodies start producing melatonin, it starts this buildup on a cycle. And typically the cycles really start to peak, when night falls. So melatonin is a sleep-inducing hormone. You start feeling more tired and ready to go to bed because of the presence of melatonin. Now, the catch-22 is testosterone can only be present when melatonin is doing its thing. So you know that testosterone is the catalyst of a lot of things, dude. It's a catalyst of not only our abilities to reproduce, but it's the catalyst of our muscle mass. It's the catalyst of our emotions. It's the catalyst of a lot of things. So, and mostly centered around what athletics is all about. The biggest, the strongest, the fastest. And that's where testosterone is a necessary product that our bodies produce on its own. We don't need any pharmaceuticals. You don't need to inject anything in your body to make it perform at its optimum. All you have to do is train at your optimum, get the sleep that you're supposed to get so your body can produce those things that are going to help support this vision that you have as an athlete. And therein lies that God provides it all. We don't have to go anywhere for it, man. It's all there. Nature is there for us on anything, on any level that you want to perform at. It's there, and people have done it. So there's the importance of sleep. Sleep is definitely connected to our nature.
So let me understand this, Al. What you're saying is this. As an athlete, we know testosterone levels helps with our muscle mass, our reproduction. Female athletes don't necessarily have the same level of testosterone in their system, but in order to facilitate that metabolic state,
right,
the earlier we go to bed, the more we can maximize testosterone. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That's exactly what you're hearing. I'm saying going to bed when sleep, deep, uninterrupted sleep is essential to optimizing your testosterone utilization, for lack of a better word. But to utilize that, to optimize its availability, you need to have as much REM sleep as you can, and that's deep, uninterrupted, real sleep, not just laying in bed, looking at the ceiling, or laying in bed, broken sleep. That's uninterrupted hours of good, wholesome sleep, and you'll get a lot of bang out of that, along with making sure your body has the other things to facilitate the development.
And then how many hours would you recommend? So quality sleep really comes before midnight. And then how many hours post midnight would you need?
Well, that would be determined by your body. Wherever you wake up and you're rested. If you're waking up and you're tired, chances are you really didn't get you didn't get into your REM sleep, and that's most sleep studies. But most uninterrupted hours of REM sleep is where you want to be. But just kind of sleeping, waking up, falling asleep, waking up, that's broken sleep. But a lot of people have that broken sleep because they don't facilitate it and they think that they may, because people don't really know when they get into that groggy state and they're going into that sleep mode. Where does REM sleep really happen? It doesn't take very long, but a lot of people don't really get a chance to experience it because either they like to sleep with noise, they like to sleep with the TV on, they need something to pacify themselves. Why basically to as a norm, they think that quiets the mind and allows them to get into a deep state of sleep, but it really doesn't.
Well, we're going to come back in about 22 seconds with Al Claiborne and Gwen Lau Johnson. We're going to go to our commercial.
Bags by Coach O is proud to announce that we now carry a full line of track and field equipment. We are working in conjunction with MF Athletics. Go to our website and view our new Puma catalog at www.coacho.com.
We're back. Hey, I'm on the air with Al Claiborne. This is Ian Dubé, as well as our track and field chair, Gwen Lau Johnson. Gwen, you there? I know you're a deep thinker, and you're probably burning up that notepad as I'm over here burning up the notepad. I'm just in awe because we're in our second, almost 36 minutes into our nutritional discussion. So we're almost at 2 hours of nutrition discussion. And so I'm going to ask Al to kind of wrap it up and kind of give us that template for good nutritional balance, good rest, good hydration, because it seems like there's that extra dot of sleep that we don't necessarily talk about. And I love the aspect of journaling the day, the week, the month, because like I said, as a coach, my whole focus is on creating these great training patterns. The challenge is I don't have control over the athlete once they leave my midst. And I know in the summer, especially with our younger athletes, they have a tendency to want to stay up all night and watch television. And with our older athletes, I know that they're caught up in the circle of life. They go to work all day, and then they come and then trying to chain for a couple hours and then balance the rest with the family. So with those challenges, Al, let's focus first. In our last 10 minutes of this segment, let's focus on our youth athletes. What can we do nutritionally or holistically with our what advice would you give holistically to our youth constituents? And then we'll roll to the openly.
Well, holistically, I would say to them that have a very clear vision on what it is that you want to do. Meaning that, at some degree, somehow, some way, somebody has told you that you had talent for what you're doing, and you proved it because you're in the competition. So if competition is your thing, and you want to stabilize or want to increase your competitive edge, you want to make sure that your training is you take a comprehensive approach to your training, meaning that all things considered, mind, body, and spirit. You got to look at what you're ingesting in your body, first of all, to make it strong. You want to look at the quality of fuel that you're putting there and to maximize not only performance when you're actually doing the exercise. You want to look at the recovery time that's going to allow your body to recover. You're going to look at what's going to optimize that process, meaning making your muscles connective tissue and the neurological process that comes from your brain to your muscles. You want to make that optimum so that your speed, your agility, your endurance, all that is consistent or improving. So your improvement is going to be in your training, how hard you're able to push your training, how hard you're able to push that anaerobic threshold to make sure the aerobic threshold is getting what it needs, so that you're getting faster and you can focus on speed and agility, whatever it is that they're doing. Then you want to look at what helps with that process. That process is supported by the habits and behaviors around your training, your attitude, your ability to focus on the task at hand and to stay on task. That's another one that we haven't really touched on, is what happens in the other 23 hours after your training. You got to make sure that you're doing your part outside of what the coaches are doing. Now, the coaches can only go so far with what they have to work with. The athletes' ideas and vision of themselves has to constantly be fed by the coaches, but you have to give them the resources that they need in order to do that. I took my athletes and I put them on 15 minutes of visualization every day when they first get into the gym. First thing they do is that they go in, they get quiet, they put their headphones on, and they listen to something that allows them to think, allows them to envision, allows them to see their run, their race, allows them to see their training, how hard they want to push it today, that every day counts, every day, every hour that they spend in here is going to matter when they get a chance and the opportunity to perform for that platform. So those things are what you can do holistically, and making sure that you're sleeping, of course, and like I said, all the other habits and behaviors are in place. Now, when it comes down to nutrition, eat a variety of the power foods. Don't limit yourself to one or two things. I know so many athletes make the mistake of eating nothing but carbohydrates and protein. If you ask them what they ate, I had some brown rice, or I had some oatmeal for breakfast, some scrambled egg whites, and then I had some chicken breast. And that's it. Rarely do they talk about anything green or leafy on their plate. Or do they talk about, radish or any of the other kind of far-fetched, kind of unique vegetables that rarely we see on anybody's plate. But as an athlete, you got to think like that. You got to think that you are feeding your body optimum nutrition. So the beets and the radishes, they do make a difference. They do help, along with the cherries, the berries, the other power foods that we spoke on. But there's list and upon list that you can look up. I mean, there's lentils and legumes. There's all different types of sources of protein that you could choose as a protein source. There's all kinds of green leafy vegetables and different varieties of those power foods that you can utilize for consumption. But they all matter because everything works synergistically with the body. And on the other end, hydration is some of the simple things that we can do. You know that you need to drink water. And water is the catalyst of everything that functions in our body. We will die if we go 3 days without water. You can live off food for 2 weeks. So water is essential to performance. And I can't say enough, again, about sleep. Sleep is one of the most important things besides, your nutrition to optimize your training.
Wow. Incredible. Before we leave, take the baton away from you and you exchange it, Gwen, do you have any questions?
I think Al did a great job of summarizing all the components that we need to be great athletes at any age, any stage. The resting, what we put in our mouth, the visualization, the nutrition is so important. All that is important to get on any podium, to be successful. So thanks, Al, so much for sharing your expertise with the track and field community. We do so appreciate the knowledge.
Well, it's great to be here sharing and being a part of something so great. I love working with our American athletes. I wish you guys all the best, and we'd love to be invited back again to speak again and anything that you guys need.
Oh, Al, you don't think that the relationship, man, this is like a marathon. So this is just the start. You passed the 2-hour test. So obviously, about endurance, and you're such a wealth of knowledge. And this kind of helps. So what I want to do is literally, when we do our next Coaches Roundtable series, you've got to be one of our fresh faces within our roundtable. And this is a a group of coaches that get together and we sit down and we talk about whatever subject matter we're talking about. And the most important thing I think is that we overlook is that we assume that everybody's getting the nutritional needs and values every day. But once again, hey, this is the end of the Ian Dubé Show. Al, Gwen, great talking to you, and we'll be talking to you soon. Peace.
Thanks.
Bags by Coach O is proud to announce that we now carry a full line of track and field equipment. We are working in conjunction with MF Athletics. Go to our website and view our new Puma catalog at www.coacho.com.